process from have, do, and be to be, do, and have. And Frank Sinatra, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, notwithstanding, that's a hard truth. So we attract into our lives what we are. So this concept is confirmed by tons of psychological research. Now, Sean Achor, who's a Harvard psychologist who's become popular both through his TED Talk and his book on happiness, explains that most of us have happiness backward. We believe that we must first achieve or acquire something to be happy. The science shows the other way around, that happiness facilitates success. And we all know about Dilbert, the cartoon series, the sort of tongue-in-cheek, paradoxical, ironic cartoonist that talks about foibles at the office in the workplace. Well, the author of that, Scott Adams, attributes his success to the use of what he calls positive affirmations. So when he got started, or, once he had his concept, 15 times each day, he wrote the sentence on a piece of paper: I, Scott Adams, will become a syndicated cartoonist. The process of writing this 15 times a day buried this idea deep into his subconscious, putting Adams' conscious mind on a kind of treasure hunt for what he sought. The more he wrote, the more he could see the opportunities that beforehand had been invisible to him. And shortly thereafter, he was a highly famous syndicated cartoonist. It couldn't not happen. So he'd grease the wheels by doing this, making and embedding a subconscious process of setting an intention and repeating it in his mind, which then made it more visible consciously, opened the pathways of the steps he could take. So Ben used the same principle, Ben Hardy, when he was a PhD candidate and beginning, a strong surge on his personal development path, where he made the single choice: I am a New York Times best-selling author. Now, he was not at the time. He was in debt. He was a PhD student. He was young. He had 3 foster kids and a wife. And it was quite a pipe dream. But guess what? In a period of 3 to 5 years, and he's only in his early 30s now, Ben went from being, as I described, to not only, I don't know if he's a best-selling, New York Times best-selling author. He is a best-selling author, and he's published by a top firm. I'm not sure which one it is, but his latest book is called Personality Isn't Permanent, as I mentioned. And he has a goal of selling 10 million copies in order for him to then have the funds to carry out other dreams he has. But he made the point to say, where Scott Adams said, I will become, Ben says, I am, because you already step yourself into that present tense of your future self, who you want to become. So it makes it easier for the kind of hand to fit in the glove, if you know what I mean by that. So think about what it is you want, and instead of just wanting, say, what would I rather experience? And then claim it for yourself now by saying, I am. Okay, here's another hard one, or hard truth about success. According to Ben Hardy, you have enough already. So in an interview at the annual Genius Network event in 2013, Tim Ferriss, and you'll recognize his books if you don't recognize his name in just a minute, was asked, with all your various roles, do you ever get stressed out? Do you ever feel like you've taken on too much? So Ferriss responded, of course I get stressed out. If anyone says they don't get stressed out, they're lying. But one thing that mitigates is that taking time each morning to declare and focus on the fact, I have enough. I have enough. I don't need to worry about responding to every email each day. They get mad if they do. That's their problem, not mine. So Ferriss, who's the author of The 4-Hour Work Week and several other books, The 4-Hour Body and a few others, where he shortcuts learning processes in many aspects of life. He was later asked during the same interview by the interviewer, having read The 4-Hour Work Week, I got the impression that Tim Ferriss doesn't care about money. You talked about how you travel the world without spending any money. Talk about the balance and ability to let go of caring about making money. And Ferris responded, it's totally okay to have lots of nice things. If it's an addiction to wealth, like in Fight Club, the movie, the things you own end up owning you, and it becomes a surrogate for things like long-term health and happiness and connection. Then it becomes a disease state. But if you have nice things and not fear them being taken away, then it's a good thing, because money is a really valuable tool. So if you appreciate what you already have, then more will be a good thing in your life. And if you feel the need to have more to compensate for something missing in your life, you'll always be left wanting, no matter how much you acquire or achieve. So this seems to be a recurring theme. Okay, and kind of related to this, that you have enough is you have every advantage to succeed already. It's another of the hard truths. So it's easy to talk about how hard our lives are, especially nowadays. It's easy to talk about how unfair life is and that we got the short end of the stick. But does this kind of thinking and talking really help anyone? So when we judge our situation as worse than someone else's, we are ignorantly and incorrectly saying, hey, you've got it easy. You're not like me. Success should come easy to you because you haven't had to deal with what I've had to go through. Well, this paradigm has formally become known in psychology as the victim mentality, and it generally leads to feelings of entitlement. Uh-oh. Now, here's some hard truth. The world owes you nothing. Life isn't meant to be fair. However, the world has also given you everything you need. The truth is you have every advantage in the world to succeed if you sort of are aware of them and leverage them. And by believing this in your bones, you'll feel an enormous weight of responsibility to yourself and the world to sort of get on with things. So you've been put in a perfect position to succeed. Everything in the universe has brought you to this point, so you can now shine and change the world if and as you want to. The world is your oyster. Our natural state is to thrive, and all we have to do, first and foremost, is to show up and make ourselves available. Okay, so I'm going to finish off with this one for today. Every aspect of your life affects every other aspect of your life. Now, human beings are holistic. So when we change a part of any system, we simultaneously change the whole. You can't change a part without fundamentally changing everything that's connected to it. So every pebble of thought, no matter how inconsequential, creates endless ripples of consequence. This idea, coined the butterfly effect by Edward Lorenz, came from the metaphorical example of a hurricane being influenced by minor signals, such as the flapping of the wings of a distant butterfly several weeks earlier. Little things become big things. When one area of your life is out of alignment, every area of your life suffers. You can't compartmentalize a working system. Although it's easy to push certain areas like your health and relationships to the side, you unwittingly affect your whole life. Eventually and always, the essentials you procrastinate or avoid will catch up to you to your detriment. Conversely, when you improve an area of your life, all other areas are positively influenced. As James Allen wrote in the book, the old classic, As a Man Thinketh, quote, when a man makes his thoughts pure, he no longer desires impure food. Darn. We are holistic systems. So humanity as a whole is the same way. Everything you do affects the whole world in some way, for better or worse. And, you know, it was also Leonardo da Vinci that said everything is connected to everything else in some way. So, you know, the question is then, taken from a song by Coldplay, am I part of the cure or am I part of the disease? So, wishing you some good thoughts, some ruminations on these hard truths, these counterintuitive perspectives on how to define success. Ultimately, though, success needs to be defined by you, and bear in mind that it will shift and change as you go through different phases of life, with different things happening internally with yourself and in your external circumstances. But ultimately, how you define success will determine whether on your deathbed you are having regrets or not. And so in order to design that out, why not take a little bit of time and consider some of these concepts, these hard-won truths about what constitutes success, but mostly define success on your own terms. So we'll have a few more of these in future weeks as we move along. And meanwhile, I want to just remind you that the life you live is the legacy you leave. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.